Xbox doesn't even defend their price increases anymore. They just look at you like this. That's right, folks. It's Groundhog Day yet again over at the Xbox headquarters because Xbox just announced yet another price increase for their consoles and conveniently timed it with GTA 6 pre-order day. Did they try to bury this in the GTA news cycle, or did they think that the hype for GTA would help cushion the blow? Hate to break it to you, Xbox, but it didn't work. So here's the deal. On August 1st, the budget Xbox model with 6-year-old outdated hardware will cost $500. And get this, the best part is that Microsoft also just quietly revealed that this is not going to be the last price increase. They already expect another one soon, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. First, we need to discuss what nobody is talking about, and that is the fact that Microsoft didn't just raise Xbox prices because memory got expensive. They raised Xbox prices because they are one of the primary reasons memory got expensive in the first place. I feel like we're living in a real life Onion article. Okay, the company asking you to finance a 6-year-old console is simultaneously spending over $190 billion this year on an AI build out that is eating the world's memory supply alive. So Microsoft increased the price of the Xbox because Microsoft is the reason they have to increase the price of the Xbox. And it's not just Xbox, by the way. On the exact same day that Microsoft made this announcement, Apple broke too. The company with the best supply chain on the planet said publicly, quote, "We have never seen a component price increase this much this fast." Now, if you're new to the channel, I worked for Apple for 6 years, so trust me when I say if Apple's supply chain can't hold the line, literally nobody can. But wait, there is good news, okay? This entire situation actually has an expiration date, because if you're paying attention to the stock market right now, the AI bubble might be the most obvious financial bubble since the dot-com crash, and when it pops, and there are real signs that it will, memory prices will collapse and gaming gets cheap again. But before we get there, things are going to get significantly worse. The gaming industry as you knew it already collapsed months ago and people just didn't realize it yet. So let's jump right in, because this Xbox story is much bigger than just another price hike. But of course, Xbox's announcement yesterday of yet another price increase is where this story begins. Xbox prices spike another $100 or more. The diskless Xbox Series X will start at $750, while the version with the disk drive will cost $800. And this graphic from IGN just immediately gave me a headache. Okay, here you can see the Xbox Series S, that is the budget model, by the way, came out in 2020, which means it was manufactured in 2019. We're talking about hardware over 6 years old, 7 years old. Okay, started at $300. It is now $500, folks. It's been a while since Sleepy Tiger came to say hi, but she wanted to just remind you guys to leave a like down below. It really helps out the channel a ton, and she's looking at me like, bro, I came all the way over here, you better give me a treat. All right, so leave a like down below if you think Tiger deserves a couple of treats, and while you're down there, you might as well use the height feature, right? The starting price for the top of the line model, the Series X, was $500. Now that only gets you your foot in the door of the Xbox ecosystem with the lowest end model here. Okay, the price of the Series S has gone up 150% since it came out in 2020. You would have been better off buying this thing instead of Microsoft stock, and I don't even think I'm kidding. The Series S 1TB is now $600. The Series X digital only is $750, and the Series X is now $800. $800 for 6-year-old hardware, bro. I can't. So this is the third price hike on Xbox hardware. The last time this happened was back in October, not even a year ago. Microsoft last raised the prices by between $20 to $70 and said it had hoped to avoid further hikes. Quote, "Unfortunately, console storage and memory prices have increased by more than 2.5 times, and we expect another doubling by the fall of 2027, Microsoft said in a blog post. We'll take a look at that in just a second, because there is some comedic gold in that blog post. Okay, but here we can see the Xbox price change over time for each of the different models after each consecutive price increase. Let's take a quick look at Xbox's actual announcement here before we talk about how Microsoft is literally to blame, the AI bubble, how this is affecting Apple, and how there actually probably won't even be enough consoles for you to buy this Christmas, even if you want one and can now afford one, because that part of the story is actually insane. But here's what Xbox had to say. Okay, unlike phones, computers, speakers, and other consumer devices, consoles are typically not sold at a profit, but instead for less than they cost to make. So like I said before, this price increase starts on August 1st. Okay, so all 4 of you that were planning on getting an Xbox before then, you should probably buy one now. Okay, here's my favorite part. Okay, today we are also sharing programs to make Xbox consoles more accessible. The first bullet point, bro: buy now, pay later. We've made it easier for players to use buy now, pay later options on eligible Xbox hardware purchases through Microsoft stores, making it possible to break up your payment into predictable short-term interest-free installments. Bro, the 4th largest company on the planet by market cap literally just looked you dead in the eyes and said you should take out a loan for our 6-year-old console, and they are dead serious about this. Like, what timeline did we slip into when they killed Harambe, bro? I cannot believe what we are reading right now. Microsoft has enough money to give every person on the planet 10 Xboxes, and it would be a rounding error. They wouldn't even realize that it happened, and they're looking at you and saying, take out a small loan for our device. Okay, we are working with retail partners on new programs to provide previously played consoles at lower prices. Okay, so this is literally just trading in consoles and buying used consoles. Okay, so this is just GameStop. This is literally GameStop's business model, and Xbox is selling certified refurbished consoles at Microsoft stores for up to 100 off MSRP. Only 100 off for a used console, by the way. And then at the bottom, just the irony of showing off the 25th anniversary console. It's just like, only a few weeks ago, Xbox fans were so happy, right? They thought, oh, we are so back, boys, and just look how quickly that was shattered. And then at the bottom, they had the audacity to say Xbox Series S remains the lowest cost way for console players to enjoy the biggest hits this year, including Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, Gears of War, Grand Theft Auto 4, and Halo. Yes, you announced this literally on Grand Theft Auto 6 pre-order day. Okay, we know why you did that. You saw all the hype and you were just like, oh, well, you know, maybe this is a good time to raise prices, so that way when the game actually comes out, people are gonna have to spend more money on our consoles. Now, this article actually shows the internet reacting to this in real time, and as I just mentioned, it turns out that buying an Xbox Series X this time last year was a better investment than buying actual Microsoft stock. We are living in an inverted timeline. This is actually a joke. Also, I don't know why Kotaku does this, but all of their posts here are from Blue Sky, and I'm just so sick of people pretending like Blue Sky is a thing. Buddy, it has 4 likes, 5 likes, 200 likes. Like, look at this, 41 likes. Can we just come back to reality? Okay, no one uses Blue Sky. Stop it. Oh, here's one with over 1,000 likes. Pretty cool. Okay, pretty cool. Video games were a short-lived entertainment medium popular from 1970 to 2025. That's what I said earlier. The gaming industry is collapsing and or has already collapsed. It is just the shell, a husk of its former self. So it looks like it's intact from the outside, but in reality, it's been completely gutted, as we see with studio closure after studio closure. I'm looking at you, PlayStation, with the whole Bungie thing, with them laying off most of Destiny 2's team. Okay, happened on the same day, by the way, but here we see this user says they sell like 10 Xboxes a month. Just eat the cost. And that's what I'm saying, bro. We're talking about Microsoft. Not only are they the 4th most valuable company on the planet, but they've been in that top slot in the top 5 for like a decade now. It's not new money. Okay, they have actual mountains of cash. This is unironically the entire trope of the dragon hoarding the gold that we see in like every fantasy film. Okay, Lord of the Rings. This is the actual real world manifestation of that in the modern day. These companies are hoarding the gold. You can just give everyone an Xbox. They're not going to, but again, like, to pretend like Xbox is like in such high demand, oh my god, they're flying off the shelves and we just can't keep up with demand and it costs so much to make them, so we gotta raise the price. It's like, bro, no one's buying an Xbox anyway. Like, look at this. This is retail sales data from Japan last week, and the entire country of Japan bought fewer than 500 Xboxes all week last week. There's 122 million people in Japan and they sold like 450 Xboxes last week in the whole country. Bro, no one is buying an Xbox in 2026. Why even change the price? It doesn't even matter. No one's gonna feel it because no one's spending their money here. Giovanni over here says, I really do get that these price hikes are hard to avoid with the RAM crisis being what it is, but if you're going to keep raising your hardware prices, you need to find some way to raise the value proposition too. And I don't think closing a bunch of studios that makes the games for it will work. And of course, this is tongue-in-cheek referencing the fact that a bunch of Microsoft studios are not doing so hot. Looks like they're either going to be closed or sold off or whatever the case might be. But anyway, it actually gets a little bit worse, okay? Because if we see this big price hike as a result of memory prices more than doubling, okay, and they expect another doubling within the next year, then we know that a similar price increase for the Xbox is going to happen again before the fall of 2027. Okay, I mean, they're literally just coming out and telling you this right now. That is what is going to happen if nothing changes, and there's no signs that it will change in the near future. I hope it does, and we'll talk about the AI bubble popping later in this video, but I still wouldn't hold my breath. Okay, but where it gets a little worse is this article right here correctly pointing out that there may not be enough consoles this Christmas to meet demand. Major retailer warns a surge in interest due to GTA 6 may see a short supply of PS5 and Xbox consoles running out. A senior games buyer for an unnamed retailer has told the game business that the combination of component shortages and price increases means consoles have been in shorter supply than usual, and that while stock may be available during this relatively quiet period, the release of GTA 6 will likely lead to a situation where console stock sells out. Quote, we've been informed that because of the ongoing issues around hardware component availability, we won't be getting the units we want ahead of GTA. The senior games buyer, speaking without his employer's permission, told the publication. Demand will likely outstrip supply during the year-end period, he added. The game business has contacted Sony and Microsoft for comment on the claims made, but notes that Xbox Chief Strategy Officer Matthew Ball already told the publication earlier this month that supply levels were currently an issue. Quote, I can tell you definitively demand for our console exceeds the supply, end quote, Ball told at the time. That's right, folks, they sold 465 units last week, but they can only supply 400 of them. Big crunch there over in Japan. I'm just kidding. But anyway, he says, we're putting them in as many stores as possible. We are producing them as quickly as possible. There is a severe limitation to how quickly we can do that, but it's not a question of appetite. Sure. Okay, buddy. And you know what's going to be really interesting, right? This holiday season, the demand for PS5 and the Xbox will be through the roof because of GTA 6. We all know this. How is that going to affect the sales of the current gen hardware for PlayStation and Xbox versus the Switch 2, right? Last holiday season, we saw that the PS5 blew the Switch 2 out of the water almost 2-to-1 for November and December. And with GTA 6 coming out, all else the same, I would expect the same thing to happen again this year. But if there just aren't PlayStations on the shelves, then the Switch 2 might actually win by default this holiday, strictly because there might actually be some on the shelf. And like I said earlier, the irony about this entire situation is that Microsoft is one of the biggest reasons why the prices of memory is going up to begin with. So their own company is cannibalizing another part of their own company. This was reported back in May. Microsoft's capex spending for 2026 is 23% higher than what analysts were expecting. The problem is rising memory prices. Microsoft projects capex will total $190 billion for the year. The tech giant has been investing aggressively in AI due to the opportunities to enhance its products and services in that area. And for 2026, it now expects its total capex to be $190 billion. That's a 61% increase from the previous year and 23% higher than what analysts were expecting. So Microsoft, that's a pretty convenient for you to leave that out of the updated Xbox console price announcement. Okay, I actually expect an apology from Microsoft because you are the reason that you are raising your own prices. You did this to yourself and now you're just passing it on to the consumer, even though you've got enough money for infinite lifetimes, and it wouldn't even matter to you if you sold an Xbox for $50 a piece. It wouldn't even matter to you. You wouldn't even notice it on your balance sheet. And earlier in the video I said that the gaming industry is straight up collapsing, right? Like the modern gaming industry that you and I know, you know, the one where console prices go down as they get older, that's gone, right? Like that is something that used to happen, and that is not happening for the foreseeable future. And the way that I know that for certain now more than ever is that yesterday Apple raised the prices of MacBooks, iPads, and a bunch of other things like HomePod and Apple TV. And I know that this entire YouTube channel is primarily focused on gaming, and especially this video about Xbox, but the reason that this is super relevant to the discussion is because Apple is one of the biggest consumer electronics companies on the entire planet, significantly more valuable than even Microsoft themselves. Okay, Microsoft is 2.7 trillion versus Apple's 4 trillion, and Tim Cook, who's been CEO of Apple since Steve Jobs passed and has only recently announced his departure, I think in September, but Tim Cook was known for, like, he is the king of supply chain management. Okay, like he is the best in the world when it comes to supply chain management. And so if Apple, the biggest consumer electronics company in the world with the best supply chain manager of the generation, if they can't avoid these price increases, then nobody can. Not little old Nintendo's peanuts compared to Apple. Okay, Sony, that's a rounding error for Apple's balance sheet. Like that, the entire company is a joke compared to Apple. And these are the updated prices. Okay, these are no small price increases, by the way. The MacBook Neo launched this year for $600. Now it's going up to $700. The MacBook Air is seeing a $200 increase from $1,100 to $1,300. The Mac Pro is seeing a $300 increase. The iPad Air is seeing a $150 increase, $200 for the iPad Pro. Remember when I said that it's going to get worse before it gets better? Okay, so not only was Apple like the canary in the coal mine here of like, okay, things not only have they hit the fan, it's going to get worse. Even Apple is predicting it to get even worse than that. They hint at more price increases coming later. Here's the statement that Apple gave Bloomberg, quote, "We have now reached a point where we need to begin raising prices on a number of products, including today's increases for iPad and Mac." The key phrase there being we need to begin raising prices and including today's increases. The former implies that Apple plans to raise more prices in the future. Most likely those increases will target the iPhone, Apple Watch, and possibly AirPods, all of which were spared today. Now everyone knows the next iPhone is probably coming in September through at the latest it'll be November, okay, depending on supply chain, but we are just 3 to 4 months away from a new iPhone. And if you expect that new iPhone to be announced at the same price as the current top of the line model, you've lost your damn mind. Okay, you lost your damn mind. It ain't happening. Okay, the next iPhones will be more expensive. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. So the reason that the Apple story ties into the collapse of gaming is because companies like Apple and Microsoft are worth more than entire countries. Okay, like I know that I can show you this number 4.1 trillion, okay, and say, oh, look how valuable it is, but like the human brain can't even comprehend that amount of value. Okay, and I know before the smart ass comments down below, well, market cap's not actually liquid cash, and so like I get it. Okay, I know you think you're being smart, but you're missing the entire point here. My point is that there is a massive bubble in tech right now. Nobody is safe, least of all video game consoles. Who cares about, in the grand scheme of things, no one cares about video game consoles. Look at SanDisk over the last year. It is up 4,567%. We are entering territories where in order to identify this as a bubble, you do not need virtually any understanding of macroeconomics. You don't need to understand global geopolitical issues. You don't need to understand the federal funds rate. You don't need to understand indexes, futures, stocks, bonds, foreign exchange rates. You don't need to understand any of that to look at a chart like this and say that this is a bubble. Somebody with a sub 80 IQ, a literal caveman, could look at this and say, yes, the chart goes vertical. That is not sustainable. It is simply not sustainable, especially in a landscape where the AI divisions of a lot of these companies like like Microsoft, they're producing revenue, but they're not pumping out profit to the extent that it justifies a 4,500% increase in SanDisk's stock price, okay? And it's not just SanDisk. We've got Micron. They just reported earnings like 2 days ago. They're up 825%. AMD is up 261% in the last year. Like the most smooth-brained, I'm talking like chicken breast for brains, troglodyte subhuman individual can look at those prices and say, yes, obviously there's a bubble. We've transcended the need to meticulously identify macroeconomic factors. Like, no, look at the chart for 2 seconds. That's all you need to know. But if you need even more evidence that this shit is insane, just look at what people with the money are doing. Okay, the executives over at Micron, when they sell or buy stock, they are required to file an SEC form 4. I think it's form 4. You get the point. They have to tell the public that they're doing trading because they're inside the company. So to avoid insider trading, they have to make their stock transactions publicly available. And over the past year, employees of the company have purchased $7.8 million worth of stock, but have sold $238 million worth of stock. That tells you that even the people on the inside are looking at this and spamming the sell button because they're just like, what the this makes no sense. Just print the money because this shit is not going to last. Okay, everyone knows it. Most of all, the smart people in the room inside the companies who have the most to gain here, they're the ones selling the stock. They have like 32 sell forms in the last year and a single buyer. Okay, like when I tell you this bubble bursting is going to be cataclysmic, it's going to be in textbooks. Okay, if kids even still use textbooks these days. I know Chegg is like super down as a stock, but anyway, that's the good news here, is that every single sign is pointing at this is a bubble. They're pointing at, they're like, there's a bubble. Now the downside is that things could continue to bubble for another year, right? Like that's the reality of this. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, it's any day now, right? Like things can be unreasonable longer than anyone realizes. So we might still be a year out from the bubble bursting, but every sign is pointing towards, yes, eventually all of the house of cards, it's gonna come collapsing down. And that's not to say that things are going to get cheaper than they were before the bubble, right? They might just come back down to a little bit higher than they were. But the silver lining is that when all of this collapses, which it will inevitably collapse, the market will be flooded with memory and chips that these manufacturers, I mean, they've ramped up production to meet the demand of these AI data centers, and they can't just turn that on and off with a switch, right? Like when you ramp something up, you have to have factories and machinery, and you buy raw materials, and you have employees, and there's all of this that goes into manufacturing things like memory. And so when the bubble pops, the supply of memory is going to be at record high levels, and at that point it will be a fire sale, and finally we will see some relief in the gaming industry because they'll be selling these things for pennies on the dollar to the Xbox division and to Sony's PlayStation and to Nintendo for the Switch too. So that's the silver lining of this whole story. But unfortunately, like I said earlier, things are going to get worse before they get better. But I'm curious to know what you guys think about all of this in the comments section below. And while you're down there, drop a thumbs up on the video, especially if you made it this far. It really helps out the channel a ton. And you might think you're subscribed to the channel because you've seen a bunch of my videos, but you're actually not. Double check down below.